You say, what? I'm a professor of theology. You want me to do something immoral as that? Do you want to be a professor? Okay, here, take. This is the list. In other words, what I want to say here is that the Nazis, in order to Nazify the state, in order to carry on a new policy which fit their ideology, they could lie all the way to the bank. They could leave the Constitution and they could ask the people or the bureaucrats, including the intellectuals, to comply. And unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say that, the intellectuals proved to be the weakest link in society. They were the cheapest ones to buy. The cheapest ones to buy were the big professors and the big authors and the big whatever, and the big artists. The film you should all see is Mephisto, about the German artists, actors, who make sure that the socialist actors are fired. In other words, it's very easy to take over. Democracy is very weak, it's very vulnerable. So, one of the things that the Nazis do, they want to carry out things that are illegal. The Constitution doesn't allow that. So they carry them out. How? By creating a parallel institutions. Parallel institutions. Prisons, police. In order to be sent to prison, you have to commit a crime according to the law. Okay. You built other detention camps called concentration camps. By the way, they didn't invent it. They learned it from the Soviets. The gulags were already there. And so they created concentration camps. Dachau exists from zero time. Not far from here, in Berlin, Sachsenhausen exists from a very few months afterwards. These are detention camps that belong to the Nazi Party, and people are sent there who are communists, who are socialists, who are homosexuals. Everybody is sent there that the regime doesn't like. Except Jews. You don't send Jews there. Why? Because the idea of a concentration camp is to change their behavior. He's a communist, send him to a concentration camp, indoctrinate him, torture him, starve him, all kinds of things. 2 years, he'll come out. He'll act beautifully. Americans don't do that, huh?
No.
Okay, we do. It'll be wonderful. That's the purpose of a concentration camp. Re-education. Jews? No. Jews is something racial. A Jew can't help it. You can't change his behavior. So what are you going to do with him? Well, we don't know yet, and they're still looking. Yeah.
The motivation for concentration camps being about almost free education, is that in every context, or what it was in this particular one? Like historically, have they always been for that purpose, or that's what they wanted it for this particular?
Yeah, historically, concentration camps were invented by the Soviets. The Soviets, from 1923, trained the secret police of the Germans and their officer corps, and they gave this instrument of re-education. This is how you deal with the enemies. What I'm trying to say is that the purpose of a concentration camp is not to kill. If, by the circumstances, people, and eventually a lot of people get killed, it happens, but that's not the purpose. The purpose of concentration camp is to re-educate and rechannel or recycle into society. Yes.
Was that as phony as being?
Wasn't phony. That was real.
Oh, so okay. So were people ever actually released afterwards?
Absolutely, absolutely. In those years before the war, most people were released.
And how long did it take for them to finally be
6
settled?
months, 2 years.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. I just want to stop here and say that eventually, in a few days when we do get to Auschwitz, who would be the staff in Auschwitz? Who would be the staff in Auschwitz? People taken from the concentration camps. Prisoners. Prisoners taken from the concentration camps, they would be the staff in Auschwitz. They themselves being prisoners, inmates. And the worst story that I always tell is about this lady called Dora, who was commander, she was in charge of the women's camp in Auschwitz in 1944, when in 1933 she was interned as a communist. In 1935 she was released. She was going to be released if she gave the names of other members of her communist cell. She wouldn't give the name, and she remained in the concentration camp to eventually be the commander in Auschwitz. So, I'm telling you a simple story, and all of a sudden we go into the into beyond imagination. And what I'm trying to impress you with is that wonderful American saying that you know, good soldiers never die, good soldiers fade away. Or what McCarthy used to say, didn't come in a whimper, it didn't come with a bang, it came with a whimper. Because when we talk about the Holocaust, we expect the most dramatic terms here, yes? Monstrosities. But how things crawl on you. How things crawl on you and eventually become these dreadful things here there is really a fantastic lesson, because we all know that we're not monsters. I know that I'm not a monster. Can I gradually become one? In certain circumstances. No one should think that he's beyond that. To me, this is the meaning of the Holocaust. I don't think I can. Can I become? Can I evolve into, under certain circumstances? That scares me. That scares me. And I can see it in so many ways. In 1934, Goering, number 2, in Germany, sits in a salon meeting, a parlor meeting, and he talks about the Jewish problem to a bunch of people, and he says, you know, the Jews are here and there and everywhere, and how can we get rid of them? The Nazis don't know. And somebody says, shoot them. And Goering stops and he says, shoot them? What are we, barbarians? The Nazis could not conceive that. In 1942, the glad that I'll tell you more. In 1940, Himmler, the most ideological component of the Nazi regime, head of the SS, he writes,
so in a few more minutes, once Mr. Bormar is done with the introduction to the Wannsee Villa, I'm going to take you back inside where you can understand the meeting that took place here, which is the meeting that many of you may understand as the decision to create the final solution, which it really wasn't. The final solution was actually scripted beforehand. This was just an official meeting in as you can see, a beautiful villa to sort of rubber stamp what they were creating in terms of the concentration extermination camp system. And that meeting took place on these official grounds, which you can see the major contradiction that it represents. So I'll be back in a few minutes once we get inside.